This is TWiT.
The internet's final frontier. Remote Amazon tribes.
Oh, isn't this
It's
sad?
a really interesting New York Times story about how these Amazonian tribes got internet thanks to Starlink, and now they're dealing with all the problems that having internet comes with.
I rest
also
my
the
case.
benefits, Paris.
This
No,
wonderful,
I thought it was good. I don't
democratic,
think it's sad, Leo.
Yeah.
beautifully run
story.
tribe that has survived without contact with the West for hundreds and hundreds of years gets Starlink and is descending into addiction.
They all say,
That's
please.
projection.
Okay, no, here, Sami Marabu, 73, sitting on the dirt floor of her village's Maloka, a 50-foot tall hut where the Marubo sleep, eat, and cook together, says, when it arrived, everyone was happy. The internet brought clear benefits like video chats with faraway loved ones and calls for help in emergency. She says, but now things have gotten worse. Young people have gotten lazy because of the internet, she said.
look.
They're learning the ways of white people.
Look, all these
Then
people
she paused
staring
and
at their
added,
phones.
But please don't take our internet away.
Oh, yeah, right.
Actually, didn't we see this movie? Isn't this basically The Gods Must Be Crazy?
It kind of is, yeah.
Except
That
it's
was
not
about a
it's-
Coca-Cola
They
bottle was thrown out
introduced
of an
a
airplane.
hard substance, and the culture was grappling with what to do with a truly hard substance. And so then the rest of the movie is the guy's got to chuck away the hard substance. But here we gave him a different hard substance.
We gave him the internet,
we gave
baby.
him the internet.
We gave him Elon.
But it's the same principle. The culture was tooling along, and then we gave them a variable they weren't used to, and there's issues with confronting what do you do with something new.
It's interesting because when Starlink first came along, that was actually what I thought was going to be the biggest benefit, was bringing the internet to pockets of the world that are just completely without the internet. And in fact, that's what's happened. The Times says Starlink's most transformative effect is in areas once largely out of internet's reach, like the Amazon. There are now 66,000 active contracts in the Brazilian Amazon, touching 93% of the region's legal municipalities.
They get to call for
It's
medical
a really
help.
interesting story. The Times writes, the internet arrived on the backs of men. They trudged miles through the forest, barefoot or in flip-flops, carrying 2 antennas each. Just behind were some people documenting the journey. In the villages, they nailed the antennas to the tops of poles and plugged them into solar panels.
By the way, I got to point out, Starlink requires unimpeded view of the sky. So notice they've chopped down most of the rainforest for 100 feet in every direction. Okay, continue on.
Leaders realized they needed limits. The internet would be switched on for only 2 hours in the morning,
smart.
5 hours in the evening, and all day Saturday.
Oh.
During those windows, many Marubo are crouched over or reclined in hammocks on their phones. They spend lots of time on WhatsApp. There, leaders coordinate between villages and alert the authorities to health issues and environmental destruction. Marubo teachers share lessons with students in different villages, and everyone is in much closer contact with faraway family and friends.
This is why I wrote a thank you note to the internet in my book. We've got to remember the good stuff too. Yes, it gets misused. Yes, people do wrong things. All that's true. But it brings benefits to people, and who are we to say they shouldn't have them?
Okay, so I didn't read the article. I just read the blurb that said addiction. And
Well, that's the New York Times projecting their fears on the Amazonian
okay,
tribe.
because there's no, I mean, I don't know how the internet would promote addiction anyway. Maybe addiction to the internet.
Kaipa Marubo, a father of 3, said he was happy the internet was helping educate his children, but he was also concerned about the first-person shooter video games his 2 sons play. I'm worried they're suddenly going to want to mimic them, he said. He tried to delete the games, but he believed his sons had other hidden apps. I mean, it's always going to happen. Kids are going to hide things from their parents. Teens are going to be teens.
Even if you live in the same room together.
This is actually an age-old conversation about contact with these remote tribes in the Amazon and elsewhere. The people who are contacting them, this is the old white man's burden, believe they're bringing them all the benefits of civilization, medicine and information and sex and pornography. I don't know what they're bringing them, but they're bringing them the benefits of actually usually Christianity, right? But often it is not to the benefit of these remote tribes. It's an interesting conundrum. In Star Trek, you might know, they have a philosophy of not having any contact with
The Prime
indigenous,
Directive.
the Prime Directive.
Which they break every time.
They break it every time.
Yeah, every time.
And it's just a TV show, I understand. But do we have a Prime Directive, or is it just it's the way of the world? We're just going to bring civilization to everybody we can find, with all its pros and cons. Look, that's what they're doing. Internet is just civil.
Well, it seems like the people who brought this were tribal people who'd gone
Well,
and I believe
it's
tribal members
also
from
this
the tribe
this
that had
woman who
gone to work
donated
and
25.
Yeah, but that woman got involved because a tribal man who'd gone to the city, I believe, for work, wanted to get this for his community and saw like a presentation this woman had done and then pleaded with her to finance it. She did. I mean, I think if communities want technology, they should be allowed to have it.
You know what
but
happens?
I do think it was kind of an interesting study on their speed running the social media era.
Oh, it is. Look, it's interesting in abstract. I just don't know if it's a good thing for these people or not. You know what happens to the Super Bowl loser T-shirts? You know, when they have a Super Bowl or a World Series, they print T-shirts for both teams as the winner. But inevitably only one team wins, so the other T-shirts are useless. They send them to these tribes in Africa and other areas.
It's a problem.
Is it a good thing because they have T-shirts now, or is it just capitalism gone wild?
Well, they don't. In that case, they don't need any more crappy quality T-shirts. It's been. I mean, I believe. I'm not sure which specific locales the Super Bowl T-shirts are sent to, but there's a huge problem where because of the high consumption of like mass-produced clothing goods in the Xi'an era, all of these communities are now overwhelmed with bushels and bushels of clothing.
The other thing is, like in the instance with the shirts, it works with things like soaps. Oh, let's send people who live in developing communities soap because surely they need soap.
Because they're so dirty.
Well, soap is something that is a really easy home-based business for women in those developing areas, and they can't go into business making money selling soap because there's all this free soap, so it's killing their business. So that's one less job accessible and one less. It tends to keep the developing communities from developing their own economies, producing their own goods, because we're just giving them all the stuff we think they need, but then they can't have a burgeoning economy, and so everybody remains in poverty. So a lot of this is like, yeah, it's something that may, it's policy. It may seem like a good idea, but you really have to think through the math of, if we start doing this, what are the changes that it's going to end up causing, and are they going to leave the people we're trying to help in a better position than if we did nothing at all?
Misery loves company, and as long as we're suffering from overexposure to modern civilization, maybe they ought to too. Why should they be exempt? I don't know how to feel about this. I don't want to also do something that's very common, which is to kind of romanticize traditional life, primitive life.
Well, who are you to choose either way?
Right, it's their choice.
People have a choice. Yeah.
Yes.
And they've chosen the internet.
Have they?
That's good.
Have they? One guy went to this woman and said, "Please give us the internet." I don't know. Is that all of them? I don't know.
I mean, people can choose whether or not they want a phone and connect to the internet. They vote, I think, as a community.
That's true. They
on
could
what
just
hours
say,
the internet is happening. Someone could take a hammer, kind of like what you got there, and smack the Starlink thing if they didn't like it that much.
Yeah.
Yep.
It seems like the
Luddites of the
problems
current
this society is having is a microcosm of what we're
Well, it is for sure. I mean, that's
issues with
interesting, isn't it?
communication.
Yeah.
It's interests about young men having access to pornography. It's stuff that we as a society have had to deal with for decades and decades that is happening in a microcosm now.
Hey, it's Leo Laporte. I hope you enjoyed this little snippet from our show This Week in Google. For the full show, you can either go to our website, twit.tv/twig, or find Twig in your favorite podcast client. And, of course, there's links right below, somewhere down there, for more information.